Connie Shaw, and this is Vox Populi, and I'm here with Ed Dutton, and we are at the ARC conference. Are you enjoying your time so far, Ed?
No. I'm enjoying talking to people and chatting to people, which is what it should be about. But the speakers are the same as last year, and it's like being in a very unpleasant pop concert in there.
Okay.
It's bad for the autism. But I'm enjoying the social aspect of it. The social aspect is good.
Yeah. And so who are you most looking forward to hearing, or have you already heard?
No, I'm literally here to socialise with people. I suppose Nigel Farage, I'll go and see that. And I'll go and see Toby, because he's a friend of mine. And I'll go and see... no, that's about it.
Okay. And you were saying before you were worried about, because you come from Finland, which is where you live.
Yes.
You're worried about being stopped at the airport.
Steady on. Well, it is certainly true that a number of people that I know have had that happen to them. And I don't know how much your viewers know about this, but under the relevant Act of Parliament, the Prevention of Terrorism Act, you can be stopped at the port of entry and held for 5 hours. And you do not have any rights. You don't have the right to remain silent. You must give your saliva sample and fingerprints and stuff like that. And if you don't, then they will just drive you to a police station and get permission. They will sit you there and question you in detail about every aspect of your life, and you must answer. They will take away your digital devices and take hold of all of the information thereon. And in the case of a friend of mine with whom I made a film, Callum, he was stranded. He got into Gatwick Airport and he had to make his way to Devon with no mobile phone, whatever. It was Generation Z, so not having a mobile phone is a killer. But also no ability to book things, whatever. It's absolutely appalling. And they've done this, the idea that these people are genuine terrorists. Under the law, you don't have to have a reason to stop them. You don't even have to have suspicion. So it's basically a way of weaponising an Act of Parliament that was introduced to stop Islamic terrorism, which is 94% of all terrorist activity in Britain, in order to intimidate people who are perceived as a problem for the regime. And it's not Callum, who used to work for Lotus Eaters, which is perhaps why this happened to him. It's happened to a co-author of mine. It's happened to Neva Parvini, academic agent, and a number of other people. So yes, it is an intimidatory tactic, I think.
But you're happy to be here now?
I'm happy. Yeah. I'm slightly insulted that I wasn't felt interesting enough to be stopped, and I planned it out in all kinds of detail. I deliberately didn't bring my laptop, which I normally bring. I secluded my friend who's a barrister. I secluded his number on my person, and then nothing happened. So.
What is this book that you have?
It's my book, Woke Eugenics, which how social justice is a mask for social Darwinism. And what I argue, in essence, is that wokeness is a selection event, that we become genetically extremely unhealthy as a consequence of the Industrial Revolution, and so all this mutation builds up, and it expresses itself in wokeness. Eventually, wokeness, or proto-wokeness, takes over the culture and pushes people on a maladaptive roadmap of life. All but the healthiest will be resistant to this, and so it's self-correcting. Those who would have been the normal pre-industrial population will survive this process, because they will be the ones that will have children and things like this. And everybody else will be inculcated into not having children because of the environment, into delaying having children, or into transsexuality or whatever. So it is a self-correcting process.
So if it's a self-correcting process, what is the purpose of things like today? Is there a need to actively fight against?
That is an interesting debate. It's hard to say. I mean, I do argue in the book, perhaps ironically, that perhaps we should all just adopt wokeness. Perhaps we should, by what we're doing, we are a problem. But alternatively, I suppose you could argue that if civilization must collapse, and they are collapsing civilization, then maybe it's best if we can rescue as much of it as possible and take it to a kind of new Byzantium where we keep things going. And that would militate in favour of wanting it to be slower and more cautiously done. But I suspect that what we're seeing at the moment, people talk about there being an anti-woke backlash. I think that's just part of the general ebb and flow of things. In general, the right concede ground to the left because they are both interested in equality and harm avoidance. until there's total chaos, and then you get a backlash. But that backlash can be part of a broader decline. I mean, there was a backlash in the 1980s against things like homosexuality and whatever. There was a period of backlash, and then eventually the left come in and carry on. Like it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back for the left.
As much as there's wokeism on the left, there is this new brand of wokeism on the right. Do you think that's an issue that we need to be concerned about? The more that we move away from leftist values, we need to be concerned that there might be a new culture forming on the right where people are equally silenced. I know we spoke about it in the video that we did.
Yes, I am. I think. I mean, if you look even here, we're sitting in front of something that says "Truth Rising: Focus on the Family," and it strikes me that those people may not necessarily be in favour of free speech on certain issues. And in general, what tends to happen is that you get this. At the moment, there is a coalition between, well, as we discussed when I interviewed you, this interesting coalition between people that are right-wing and conservative and TERF feminists. And that's a temporary coalition as a result of them having mutual interest, which is disliking the extremities of wokeness. And in much the same way, I can very much foresee that if a backlash like this happens, and it may do, and the breeding patterns indicate that it will do, because if you control for intelligence, then the big predictor of fertility is that you are religious and conservative, and those things are highly heritable, then what you're going to end up with is it goes too far, and suddenly some of the things that we take for granted, I mean, even interacting as a man and a woman despite the fact that we're not of the same family and not married. I mean, things like that can eventually come under attack. And things like the idea that you're working or you're at university could come under attack. And I'm afraid I wouldn't be at all surprised if that's what occurs. Because that's generally how these things go. You get a backlash and it just goes too far.
You think we could end up in a situation where women are ostracised from society?
I don't think it would necessarily be as extreme as that, but certainly where there is much more of a taboo around certain sexual freedoms, and these people will justify that with just as much fervour as the woke currently justify. Oh, it's all to do with avoiding harm, and free speech leads to Auschwitz, and the kind of manipulative arguments that they promote. That the anti-woke or the woke right will say, oh, free speech leads to treason.
Yeah.
And therefore, certain ideas should not be discussed in academia because you're questioning Britishness or you're questioning our history or whatever. And that, for me, is just as much of a problem.
Yeah.
I guess that's just the kind of psychology I have. And I would completely see that I would be the first person, if it was Nazi Germany, to be on the side of the left, because I'm not going to be bossed around by these people. But you do get this, that they, for example, I once tweeted out why I moved to Finland, and there was a huge reaction, you're a traitor, you moved to a traitor. And from these kinds of people who probably haven't done very much, but they purity signal about, oh, at least I haven't left my country, and then they feel better about themselves. And those people are, in some ways, a similar kind of psychology to the people that are their opponents.
What was your reason for moving to Finland then?
Well, partly my wife is Finnish, Helene. Partly my wife is Finnish, and partly I suppose I did want to get out. I did want to. I thought the writing's on the wall. We've got this left-wing Tony Blair society. It's repression, free speech. I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah. Do you think then, considering what you just said, do you think there are any sorts of views that should be banned from society?
I sometimes fantasize about the idea that there should be complete free speech, except that it should be a criminal offence to publicly advocate restrictions on free speech.
Okay.
Which is a bizarre paradox.
Yeah.
But then if you really think about it, the idea that one restriction we always had was that you can't shout fire in a crowded theatre. So you can't recklessly lie such that it precipitates very serious danger for other people. But the thing is, then once you start saying that, then you can see how that logic needs some laws where you say, if you are criticising the government, then you're inciting panic among the populace, and that's dangerous, and we must stop you. Of the kind of laws that they have in Zimbabwe. Yeah. And so then I guess I would think, no, perhaps it's safer to just not have those kinds of restrictions. And that mindset is basically, that's very authoritarian mindset. It's you are interfering with good governance. You shouldn't do that. No, in a democracy, you should criticise the government. And you should be allowed to, indeed even encouraged, to criticise the government. It's an extraordinarily paternalistic attitude that you're either with us or against us. The government's doing their best. No, the government is not doing their best. The government has people like Jess Phillips as the safeguarding minister, and she's really stupid. And the government has all kinds of dreadful people that are involved that really loathe aspects of UK life, such as David Lammy. Yeah. The government has Keir Starmer, and there's all kinds of appalling things that we all know about him, but we can't broadcast. I think they're very bad. I think they're really quite unpleasant people a lot of the time. But to be fair, you would expect people like that to get into positions of power. Intelligence plus dark triad traits, but with someone like him, it's so obvious, he doesn't even hide it.
Yeah, it's a bit like my friend was saying to me the other day, people who want to be on an ethics board, for example. It's a very strange idea to want to be on an ethics board, because that's suggesting that you have this sort of higher morality than anyone else, that you think that you should have the authority to decide what does and doesn't happen based on whether that is right or wrong. So yeah, I concur with what you're saying, that the people who get into power, you have to question why it is that they want to get into power. Do they truly want to make the world a better place? I mean, do you think that politicians of all sides are like this, that they're actually unpleasant people?
Yes.
Or is it you do?
Well, let's distinguish between two different kinds of politician. There's the kind of politician where you are, let's say you're probably socially skilled, high in general factor of personality, you come across well, and people ask you, people say you should go into politics. Either because you have that kind of character type which is conducive with creating good order and getting things done, or even because you're sort of charismatic and you can do a good speech and you can make people laugh, and people say to you, oh, you should go into politics. And you're going to get other people who just really want to go into politics. And those people are Machiavellian. And if you read their biographies, in most cases, someone like David Cameron was basically asked, people were saying to him, he was working for Conservative Central Office, so he was interested in politics, but people were saying to him, oh, you seem like a good chap, you should become an MP, you should do that. Boris Johnson, similar thing. Whereas with someone like John Major, he's just quite open about the fact that I want to be where the power is. I want to be where things are happening. So that person is Machiavellian. And that is part of a certain broader personality construct known as the dark triad, which is going to militate in favour of, you want to go into politics because you want power, you want to go into politics because if you're a bit narcissistic, you want praise and you want adulation, and you've got to be a bit sort of devious and whatever, and so that militates in favour of psychopathy. And so I would think that they would be elevated in those traits. Well, I don't think, there are studies for showing that they are elevated in those traits. And some more than others. And that's just true. And it's such nonsense when they say, oh, most of us go into politics because we want to help other people. No, you don't. There's plenty of ways you can help other people.
Yeah. How do we break that cycle then? How do we get good people into politics?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, have you read the Napoleon of Notting Hill by G.K. Chesterton? And they just have, it's just like jury service. They just select a random person of the population and make him king. Maybe they would do it. They would do it like jury service. I don't know if they'd have to have some sort of academic qualification or intelligence qualification or something. Maybe not.
I mean, to lots of people, that would be their worst nightmare. The idea that we'd be picking people at random to lead our country.
I think they would do just as well.
Do you think?
Well, I mean,
that is quite an insult to all past and present leaders.
No, fine. But, I mean, you're going to get some people, perhaps in times of crisis, that militates in favour of needing a charismatic type. But I think otherwise, if it's just an apparatchik that you want, that runs things well, we want people. The other thing they go on about is the pay of MPs. You shouldn't want to go into politics, on the one hand, to get money, but on the other hand, if you're that Machiavellian that you don't care about being paid, then that's probably a problem as well.
So where can people find you online?
I have a YouTube channel and Substack called The Jolly Heretic, where I put films and videos and writings and all kinds of stuff, so you can find me over there.
And what, any links to your usernames or anything?
Jolly Heretic on Twitter, @Jolly Heretic. And if you put in Jolly Heretic into YouTube or Substack, you'll find it fairly easily.
Thank you very much, Edward. This is Vox Populi, and we're at the ARC Conference 2025. Thanks so much for watching.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.